Hey everyone, I'm in the studio with Stanislaw, the IGL of Team Liquid, and we're here to talk about your new pickup, Twists. How did you come to picking up Twists?
Uh, to pick up Twist, we analyzed a lot of players, both from EU and NA, and we really wanted to find a player that could just fit the roles that we needed and also just hold their own. And the debate was between picking up an experienced player and also just the inexperienced, because that's what seems to divide the two sets of players, where one was like a little bit older, had a lot of experience under their belt, and Twist, he's very young. He's been to a few lands, but at those lands he showed a lot of promise, and that's what really appealed to us.
So, technically, Twist is replacing Simple because Simple's replaced by Pimp, and now Pimp's replaced by Twist, and Twist is a lot more like Simple than Pimp is like Simple. It's true or false?
Okay, yeah, if you want to look at it that way, sure.
But here's the thing. You mentioned picking up a player like Twist because he's a little bit more inexperienced, because he's more explosive, right? He's got that talent and that fire. Was there something about Pimp that you felt like? I mean, you guys weren't in the best place with Pimp, technically. You guys are still figuring stuff out. But now that he's gone, are you thinking you don't want to go for that approach again with like a more seasoned player who's more stable? You want to try something a little bit more fresh?
Yeah, I think with Jacob, it was difficult because he's from Denmark, so he missed his family and friends, and that's always in the back of your mind. But in terms of gameplay, it was just like we could just tell something wasn't right. It's just maybe we forced him to be in different spots that he didn't want to be in. But fortunate enough for us, Twist loves all the spots that we put him in, and he's just insanely good at them. So,
What kind of spots are those?
like for instance, the one that no one ever wants to play is drop on cobble, right? And he actually wants to play it, and he does a really great job there. So, yeah.
He is super aggressive. I remember watching like your demo from the other day, and it was like you think he was a drop player, and four players come out long B, and he like runs up rectangle to go and trade, and like all three of them die. It was like a liege, him and someone else. He's not on a leash right now, is he? Or do you let him just do what he wants?
No, there's always a time where we want to remind him, don't go too far. It's nice to see that he understands right off the bat. He's so young. He understands to, if you're down in a disadvantage, he's going to try to level it up or just try to make a play. And if he's not afraid to do that, that's great. Every team needs a player like that.
Have you played with anyone else like him before?
I'd say similar to a Naf or even a Tarek, where they can just, all of a sudden they'll just get 2 kills and the skill gap is very high. Yeah.
So you don't want 5 Twists on a team. Well, you don't want 5 anyone on the team for the most part. But do you think that it's very important to have someone like him? Or is there anyone else on your team that you'd say is already kind of like him and you just wanted more of that?
I'd say him, John, or him, Elige, and Nitro are both, or all three of them have like the really insanely good entry skills and the firepower, and then Josh and I can kind of just support them. Well, Josh with the opposite, I guess I'm the only support player left. But yeah, like our firepower, I think, is at its highest level possible right now.
So does that mean when you say that Josh is actually in the back most of the time and putting like more of a clutching role, and you have rifles entering? You use your op to look for picks ever, or?
Well, with my previous teams, I never really had like a fully 100% dedicated opper, so it's partially still I need to try to find an understanding with Josh on how to use them effectively, but he's been doing a really good job of telling me what he wants to do and all this, so I'm just trying to incorporate all of that. But yeah, mainly with the star power or skill power that we have, it's just up to them to, I need to put them in the best positions possible to make sure that's all used effectively.
In a lot of interviews and stuff, when people talk to players, it's like a lot of generalities, like how we use this player, and it's stuff that for you as a player, I'm sure it's just second nature. It's just stuff that you understand, so you're just trying to put it in words that are digestible. But what does it mean to figure out how to use your opera? Like when you think about how to use JDM on your team, and that you have this new challenge of trying to figure out what to do with a dedicated opera, what is that process like in your head?
Well, it's more so like what the other team's about to do, because if I think they're going to be aggressive on us, then I can just tell Josh to post up on this one spot while the other 4 of us can just wander around the map and, do other things. So it's more about adapting to what the other team's doing, and then I can just tell him what to do. But if he also has an idea of what they might do and he has a little trick up his sleeve, then we can base our game around that.
So how loose do you play rounds out? It depends on who you're playing, or is it just a style that you identify with?
It's a style that we identify with. It's always been my style of calling. Just adapt to the team that you're playing on the spot, so that you can just, because I feel like that old meta of anti-stratting and all that is just over.
Yeah.
Because if you focus too much on what they're doing, you're gonna like, what happens if they don't do it right? How are you gonna adapt? And then it's just better to practice the new style now.
Could you say that style never actually worked? I mean, there's a lot of teams that like would break to semi-finals at a major level, but there was teams that existence run. I mean, Sean Garrett's never had like extremely good success with Cloud9 to the consistent success, and these are like very similar, very strict callers. Are there any examples of really strict callers that have? I mean, maybe Zeus on Navi is probably the best example, but is that why you never looked up to that type of calling? Or what examples did you like? What IGLs did you like?
Well, I know Sean was huge on anti-stratting, and he based his whole system around that. But like, the fear of that for me is you put in all this work for anti-stratting, and then if they're playing different, what's your backup plan, right? So my style of calling is more like a glaive, or even like a Shocks when he was back calling. It was just a lot more free, a lot more adaptive, and I feel like that's the best way to play CS right now.
Yeah, I agree. You played Source as well? 1.6. Oh, 1.6? Sorry. So in 1.6, were you IGLing?
I think so at one point, yeah.
Yeah. Did you change anything when you... So, I mean, I guess it was a long time ago, but the way you thought about calling, was it similar to the way you do now, or it's just...
Definitely, because this whole game is so different, and it's just all about Peeker's advantage on T side. So it's like, in 1.6, you would never call a strat where you just like walk up somewhere and just swing out on them, right? Because in this game, if you walk up with 3 guys and swing out, you're 100% going to probably get the kills, but in 1.6, it was a lot different.
So what are the negatives of playing quite loose, like Shocks or Glaive?
Well, if you're quite loose, and you don't have too much structure, then some players might not fully understand what to do. And then these little minor details that structure provides, like, for instance, you should do this at this time and watch this spot at this time while we go over there. If all these details are not explained properly, then little things can go wrong in rounds, and then that piles up eventually. So structure is really important still to have.
So I think at a certain point, Pronax came in, and he brought in the loosest, most like mid-round based calling that was like a lot of freedom, and he had really good players to do it, so he was able to get away with it. But then quickly, Navi became a great hybrid of, they started doing things quickly and slowly. SK were doing things quickly and slowly, and they were adapting as well, but they had a lot of structure behind them. So do you incorporate that as well? Do you think about a lot of tactics? Do you try to not play too loose, if you will?
I think I'm trying to find the whole package where we can have the loose play, we can have the slow play, the fast play, we can have the the really cool executes or tactics or whatever. But I think it's important to just have a mixture of everything, because if this style's not working out, you have a backup plan. If that style doesn't work out, you have a backup plan. And then it's just being prepared for every scenario.
Now you said you before you practice, or before you, so what time do teams scrim in North America?
Well, this is like West Coast. I'm not ever used to West Coast time, but on East Coast time, scrims usually start around 6, so that's 3 o'clock here. And then they go to around 7 or 8, which is pretty early for what I'm used to. Teams normally, like, they'll talk about stuff before, get on to scrim other teams, and then talk about stuff after. So the day is like, it's usually like an 8 or 9 hour day.
You think other teams work hard too?
Most teams, practice in North America lately has been kind of weird. I feel like teams aren't taking scrims as seriously as they should. They're just kind of like, running around, where some teams, for a fact that they're trying new stuff. They're trying to practice it, which is really good, which is how all other teams should approach practicing. But some teams I don't think take seriously enough, and that's why, like, they'll never be good.
You think it's just that they just don't have that, they're just the wrong player to be on that team? Like, they just don't have that need to win?
Yeah, it's just all mentality. It's like, we approach scrims how we want to approach a match. We want to, win every round, win every situation, talk about all of that. So when you see other teams not taking it seriously or playing proper CS and scrims because that's how you're supposed to play in the match, then it just doesn't make sense.
What's your philosophy on changing players? It's like some teams, obviously, there's Virtus Pros never changed a player ever since they were really like major winning tier competition. But then a lot of teams change players, and sometimes it's for the better. Like, what's your philosophy with teams that you're on, or do you agree with roster changes that other teams make?
I think roster changes are kind of a last resort for me because I think everyone deserves to be on the team if they put in the work and they have the skill, obviously. Mm-hmm. Because once it's just all about work ethic, in my opinion. Because if their skill isn't there but they're working on it and they're putting in the hours behind the scenes of watching demos and just really trying to improve and having a really good attitude, then I think they deserve to stay if they're improving. But then at the end of the day, if 6 months down the road they're still at the same level, then it's a harsh reality. We just have to maybe find another player and move on. But as long as they're putting in the work and trying to improve, I think there's no reason to get rid of them because that attitude is what makes a winning team. Just everyone wanting to improve.
How important is attitude to you? Like, would you be willing to play with someone who was raging every single round?
No, that's actually like criteria we went through with different players that we wanted to get. And Twist was like really young and fresh, and we still knew we could just quickly get rid of all the negativity that he had if we didn't know if he was a rager or toxic in any way. But so far it's been good. Since he's so young, he kind of takes everything we say really seriously. So it's really good to see him try and work at that part of his game, the mental and behavioral aspects. So that's good.
Do you feel like the four of you outside of Twist had a core before you picked him up, or do you feel very tied, on the same page with everybody already?
Yeah, I feel really good with team chemistry wise. We play a lot of games outside of just CS, and we play a lot of we just always interacting together and building that team chemistry, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You guys run PUBG together?
I don't play PUBG. me and Josh have been just playing FIFA after hours.
Oh, that's another esport. You gotta be careful, man. Esports is like you. Anyways, you said last Friday you practiced. So you start practice at 1, mm-hmm. and then you'd start playing around 3. Yeah. So let's say you said Friday maybe you practiced cash. What did you go over? What was maybe is without revealing too much about all your secret tactics and so on. What would you could you recall something that you feel like you had to address on cash that you fixed? What was it?
Well, with me joining as an end-game leader and then our recent addition of Twist, it's kind of like a fresh start. So when we went on the server, we just all wanted to talk about, okay, what do we want to do? How do we want to approach this map? What are we already good at from previous teams? Who has what ideas? And then we all just kind of incorporated that together. And everyone just said how they should approach the match. And we all just got on the same page on that level.
You've got a lot of people on your team now who have tons of experience playing all the best teams in the world. So does that make your life easier as an IGL? Because now they can give you input hey, Leech, I tried this versus Navi, it worked. So let's throw this in.
I definitely in terms of everyone on our team, I think they've all played at the highest level on multiple lands, with the exception of Twist. But even he had an insane tournament at ECS Season 1 that he really stood out there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that definitely helps with if you have experience against other teams and you just get comfortable on LAN, then it really helps. It really helps me out, like we said. They can just give me ideas when I'm stuck, or they'll pick up on things that might work, and it just helps with the team a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Just wrapping up here, just some final thoughts about calling. So what is an IGL to you? What are your responsibilities? And is there such thing as a best IGL, or are there just two different styles that are probably work just as well?
Well, I can't say the best IGL, but an IGL to me is the person that gets the best out of all the players and does his best to make the right calls. So he needs to always, put in the work to watch the other teams. I feel like the IGL has to work the hardest. He has to watch the other teams. He has to watch his team's demos back. He has to still focus on his own individual skill, make sure I'm death matching and having good movement or and all, like just being the whole complete player. I don't know, I lost my train of thought now.
So for you, you're actually like a very, very good individually. You're an IGL that's also very good individually. And a lot of IGLs struggle with that. Do you have any thoughts about why that might be?
I said this in a previous interview where I thought just some IGLs might focus too much on the anti-striding and on the demo watching, but not too much on themselves. Mm-hmm. And what I try to do is just almost just play as much as all the other players and try not to watch too many demos, if that makes sense. Because it's just important to have, the good aim, the good movement, the good understanding, and I feel like you just have to play a lot to get there.
So when you say the demo watching, are you saying that takes away from like your deathmatch time, or just their play time in general?
Because at the same time as you have to put in a lot of work, you don't want to get burnt out. So watching a lot of demos takes a lot of time. Naturally, you have to. One demo sitting could take up to an hour or even more if you really want to analyze it. So, that's an hour I could have been deathmatching or tweaking this or just practicing my aim every day.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where you can't have a fifth player who's lagging behind, right? Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the old meta of the IGL, like with the exception of North, maybe you can say, because MSL's level has always been a lot lower, but he's an amazing IGL, so that team has always been at the top. But yeah, you look at the composition of all other teams, and they all have 5 really strong players.
So what do you guys got coming up next?
We got CS Summit coming up in a few days. That's why we're here boot camping. We got DreamHack Austin right after that, and then just a bunch of online matches to qualify for as many things we can. I think we're pretty much set for ESL, but ECS just started, and yeah, a lot of stuff coming up.
Cool. Sounds good, man. Well, best of luck. Thanks for the interview. And for more coverage, check it out right here on Yahoo Esports.